pain pain is a pain. It stops me doing things. It means people have to make allowances for me. um Pain is the reason I have to use a wheelchair some of the time, or a lot of the time when I'm out. um Pain is depressing. Pain makes me not want to live sometimes, you know. uh or not want to be alive. I don't feel suicidal these days, but I certainly have periods where I'm kind of like, oh God, this is for part of my language. Pain means the difference between being clear-headed and being able to think and converse and feel normal, and being just fuzzy and numb. Yeah, I mean, a lot at the moment. I haven't taken Ormorph since September, October time, when I had some surgery, because sometimes I have to take Ormorph if I get breakthrough pain. And this renal pain I've got at the moment is really bad. And I've been trading off wanting to do this interview versus kind of, do I take some Ormorph and say, sorry, I can't do it? And pain is all to do with that. So it just, yeah. And pain has completely changed my life. I don't know where I'd be now if I hadn't got pain, but I wouldn't be here. I'd be somewhere else. I might be a lot wealthier. I might have a pension.
I live with 24-hour pain. Very much misunderstood condition, I think. From the time I started complaining, I was only about 39 at the time. And the onset of it was quite dramatic and severe for me. But when I did actually approach the professionals, or the doctors or hospital appointments, I was referred to cognitive therapy, behavior, and my GP in the end got fed up of me coming in and out of the surgery like a string dog visiting place, and referred me to the rheumatic specialist, orthopedics. I've done it all. I've explored all avenues, and I'm still, to this day, I'm still suffering. It took from the age of 39 till I was about, I think, bordering on 50 before I got diagnosed. And by then, there were other conditions actually surfacing to show that this was more complex than it presented. And then once you have more than one or two or three people looking at you in silos, it's very hard to put it into a managed package for yourself. Too much information, misinformation, and no direction and no support, because no one wanted to take the responsibility of this one diagnosis, which was misunderstood, really. I think fibromyalgia has come up, and because of the stars that are now advertising it as being people who suffer from it, people like myself who've been suffering for almost 30, 40 years now. It hasn't made that much of a difference in the day-to-day management of it, to be honest, up to this point where mine is combined with arthritic degenerative condition as well.
I've lived with pain for 52 years now. I had an accident when I was 18, and it has had a knock-on effect on the whole of my body, the whole of my spine, and all the nerves that come out of your spine. And I had 4 years of physiotherapy when I first had the accident, and even when my children were little, I couldn't pick them up out of the cots or the bath or whatever. until I had surgery on them and they had to break them open again for me. But the whole of my spine was impacted by that accident that I had. And sort of then I had various supposed treatments, which made it worse because it was wrongly diagnosed. You know, being treated for a slip disc when you haven't got one is pretty awful. Being treated for a sacroiliac joint that's come out when it hasn't is pretty dangerous. So yeah, it's been, but since I was 18, really.
I've been living with pain all of my adult life, but it wasn't until I was around 30 that I realized other people didn't have what I had. And then it turned out that I had fibromyalgia, but there wasn't a name for it back then. And I didn't realize people had that. And then in 2015, I started suffering from chronic back pain, and I had to struggle to be heard that it wasn't fibromyalgia. And now this year, just recently in the last couple of months, I now have problems with chronic pain in my knees as well. So I've got my knees, my back, and my fibromyalgia all kind of going on at the same time. So yeah, so some days are really tough.
All of a sudden the pain started, and that's where the thing started in the way of putting on weight, because the movement was restricted. I would go into my bedroom and I would just literally stay there and lay there, because you had to get into a position of where you didn't want to hurt anymore. You know, you didn't want your legs, even the base of my back burnt. It felt like it was burning, and it was coming out of the base of the back and then right the way up into the spine of my back and then down into my legs. And that pain was just chronically agonizing. If I went to see a specialist up in Romford in Essex, and they diagnosed a sense of that it's a fibromyalgic inflammation. So that's into my spine, into my legs, arms, really, I suppose, the joint aspects, and the pain is there. And good days, bad days, that's the way it is. Good days, it's painful, but it's manageable, it's livable. Bad days, I can't move, and that's me.
I'm in pain most of the time, so it affects what I can and can't do. It affects my mobility, and it prevents me from doing things that I would like to do. I guess I just had to limit what I could do, and eventually the GP that I was under at the time prescribed slow-release morphine. So that helped. The mental health services weren't that helpful about the pain at all. So even though I had a care coordinator, she said that the pain was nothing to do with my mental health. So the fact that when I was having really bad pain relapses, as it was affecting my mental health, she didn't accept that there was any connection. So she expected me to sort out that on my own and manage any physical health complaints completely separate to the mental health.
Often the pain is so bad, and I hope this is not upsetting for you, but often the pain is so bad, I just don't want to be here. It makes me at times really suicidal. And then when I'm in those spaces, then it's like, oh, it's mental health, or it's, you know, they don't want to deal with the pain, they want to deal with the mental health side of it. And actually, if they dealt with the pain, there would be less impact on the mental health. If I could have a magic wand, what I'd want people to do is really understand how pain affects people on an everyday basis. It's meant that I have to have different types of relationships with people. I can't always do what I want to do. It's affected my health. It's affected my ability to find work and be in employment. It's affected all sorts of things. And it would be so much easier for me to be on benefits, unemployed, popping pills, because that's all they ever seem to want to give me is pills, than having a life with like purpose and meaning. It comes at a big cost, wanting to have a life with purpose and meaning, particularly when you live with long-term pain. And like the pain is like one element, but not being able to think clearly when you're in pain and not being able to have lots of energy. And I always say to people, imagine like you're really, really tired and you're in pain. Like most people would go and lay down, take some painkillers, Actually, even laying down is painful.
Each morning, I do a body scan and decide what level my pain is on. And my day's activities depend on how I'm feeling each morning. With fibromyalgia, it differs from on day to day. And most recently, all of last week, I had to spend in bed because the temperature plummeted and I can't regulate my body temperature. So I had to stay in bed to stay warm to keep the pain at bay. It took 3 years for me to get the final diagnosis, and that was by a rheumatologist. And then after that, there is nowhere for people with fibromyalgia to go. When I was finally diagnosed, it then took about 2 years for my doctor, who is absolutely wonderful, to try different medications to see what worked for me. And that took quite a long time, so that I'm now what I call my base level is usually pretty good, but obviously the pain and the fluctuations in my condition vary from day to day. The medication I do take can be attributed to fibro fog, and if I took what I was meant to take every single day, I would be in bed constantly. So I try to live on the minimum amount of medication so that I can actually have some quality of life.
Pain is, I like to describe it as a constant companion, because it never goes away. And that's the aspect that I think people don't grasp, is that they may have toothache and things go away, but imagine toothache in the bone all the time and you can't escape from it. And there are days I can handle it better than others, where my barriers kind of break down a little bit and they can't take the pain anymore. Even if that pain is at the same level, that day is just a breaking point. I find trying to communicate it is the hardest part. I spent a long time denying it. So it was like this silent thing that I didn't tell anyone about, because people would treat me differently. As soon as they know that you're in pain, pity is one thing, which is nice, and it comes from a place of empathy and it's appreciated. But it's when other people are like, oh well, that's what my granny had. You can't have that. I've spent most of my life being told I was too young because I started showing signs when I was 11. I had my GP telling me that the pain was all in my head and that I was a little girl looking to get out of school. But I loved school. Big teacher's pet and proud of it, but it's I think it comes down to not being believed. You feel like you're a liar until proven innocent, even by people that should believe you, and kind of go from there, like medical people. So I find it's led to isolation. Pain is this multi-layered thing for me. It's always there. It's never gone since I was a young kid, and I'm 30 now, so it's more than half my life. And makes it all more real. I spend a lot of time telling myself I'm strong and I can still do it despite my body. It's like a self-meditation almost, and to keep me going. But to speak of it openly, you're accepting that that's what it is, to say it out loud, and it's really hard for me because I've not done it.
People need to be more tolerant. They also need to realise we're not the minority. There's tons of us. People just don't talk about it. I realised during COVID that so many people were shielding that we didn't even know were ill because they were scared to say. So why have we got a society where people are scared to say how ill they are? We judge people on how able they are through their health. And it's apparently a badge of honour if you're healthy. You know, why do we think that way? We need to change, and, you know, we need to educate on invisible conditions, but also on all the conditions that people face. People need to be educated rather than say, this is going to be something that's going to cost me in the workplace to deal with. We need to realise how much we should value it and incorporate people in the workplace that have challenges.